She always knew that one day, the truth would come out. But she prayed that day would never come. Not because she was ashamed of what she did, but because she feared the world wouldn't understand why she did it. Her name was Clara. A quiet nurse, gentle, reserved. She walked the war zone like a ghost in the fog, healing others, but never letting anyone too close. Everyone at the field hospital respected her, admired her. Some even adored her. But nobody really knew her, because Clara had built her life on silence, on carefully measured words, on locked doors and half smiles. And somewhere, buried deep inside her, was a memory that refused to die. A memory so heavy that carrying it almost broke her. That's why when the new soldier arrived, with his reckless charm and wild eyes, Clara did everything she could to keep her distance. His name was James. He didn't come quietly like the others. He came in like a storm. James had a way of filling the room with energy. Even when he was wounded, lying on the hospital cot with a bullet in his leg, he still managed to joke with the medics, charm the nurses, and make Clara nervous. She didn't like that. She didn't like how he watched her when he thought she wasn't looking. She didn't like how he asked questions. Too many questions. And she especially didn't like how he reminded her of someone she had tried. So hard to forget. But no matter how much Clara avoided him, James kept coming back. Every day, when she made her rounds, he found a reason to talk to her. He asked about her past, her life before the war, her dreams. She gave him nothing, just silence. But silence only made James more curious. One night during a bombing raid, Clara found herself alone with him in the shelter. The world shook around them, dust falling from the ceiling, the lights flickering. James turned to her and said, "Why do you look so sad when no one's watching?" Clara froze. No one had ever asked her that. She wanted to tell him to mind his business. She wanted to walk away. But instead, she stayed. And for the first time, in years, she let someone see a piece of her pain. "I had a sister," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She was everything I wasn't. Loud, bright, brave." James didn't speak. He just listened. She wanted to be a nurse too. We applied together, trained together. Clara's eyes stared off at nothing, but when the war started, they only took one of us. She looked down at her hands. She begged me to let her go instead. Said she could handle it better. Said I was too soft for this. Clara swallowed hard. But I came anyway. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. She died 3 months later, bombing in Marseille. James's eyes softened. He didn't offer her pity. He didn't say sorry. He simply said, "That wasn't your fault." Clara laughed bitterly. "You don't know that." Silence settled between them. But in that silence, something shifted. For the first time, James saw her not just as a nurse or a mystery, but as a woman carrying a ghost she couldn't bury. And he didn't push. He didn't pry. He just sat beside her in the flickering light and let her be. That night, Clara didn't return to the barracks. She stayed by James's side, both of them wrapped in a silence that felt sacred, not heavy. The sound of distant artillery rumbled like thunder in the far-off sky. But here, under the flickering bulb and the Dusty canvas of the medical tent. Time slowed. In the morning, the world returned to war. Men limped in, screamed in pain, bled on cots, and Clara moved like she always did, efficient, focused, untouchable. But James could see the difference now. She didn't look through people anymore. She looked at them, especially him. He started finding excuses to pass her cot. Smile here, a shared cup of tea, a short walk to the mess hall, and sometimes he caught her looking, not longing, but conflicted, like she was trying to keep a lock on a door that wanted to swing open. One night, as rain battered the tents and wind howled like wolves, Clara found James outside, drenched. He was staring into the distance like he could see something no one else could. "You okay?" she asked, wrapping her shawl tighter. He didn't look at her. "Got word today. My brother's missing." Clara said nothing at first, then stepped beside him. She didn't offer cliches, just placed her hand over his, and James, the soldier, with the iron will, let a single tear fall. That was the first night she stayed with him, not out of duty, but by choice. They didn't kiss. They didn't touch. They just shared a cot and their silence, and that silence screamed more than words ever could. As the weeks passed, rumors started circling through the camp. "Did you see the way he looks at her? I swear she's always around when he is. Something's going on, I'm telling you." But Clara didn't care. She'd lived too long pretending her heart didn't exist. And James, he didn't care either. He was used to being misunderstood. But with her, he felt seen. Until the day the letter came. It arrived with the morning dispatch, folded neatly, stamped in red, confidential. James read it alone, hands trembling, and when he looked up, Clara was standing at the entrance of the tent. He didn't speak at first, just handed her the letter. Her eyes scanned the page, and the blood drained from her face. They were transferring James, away from the front lines, away from her, to a new station, a promotion. It was everything a soldier should want, but James wasn't. Celebrating. He looked at Clara like a man who'd just lost something he never had the courage to ask for. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered. Clara swallowed. "You should go." "But you have to go," she said, stronger this time. "You can't stay here for me." He stepped closer. "I'm not staying for you, Clara. I'm staying because I think I finally know what peace feels like. And it's when I'm with you." Her breath caught. Her fingers twitched like they wanted to reach for him. But she didn't move. Instead, she turned away. "Then you've forgotten what war does to people." And just like that, the wall she'd let crack began to rebuild. James left 2 days later. No goodbye, no letter, just silence, thick as smoke. And Clara? She went back to her duties like nothing had happened. But at night, when the camp quieted and only the distant thunder of war echoed in the dark, she'd sit alone and remember the way he looked at her when she stitched up his wound, the way he covered her with that blanket, the way he never asked anything from her, but gave everything in silence. She missed him in places she didn't know existed. Months passed. The war dragged on. Friends were lost. Hope thinned like smoke. Then, one cold morning, a new soldier arrived, fresh from the northern outpost. He handed Clara a worn envelope. Her name was scrawled across the front in James's unmistakable handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No date, no signature, just one sentence. I never asked you to love me back. I just wanted you to know someone did. Clara stared at the page for a long time, not crying, not shaking, just still. Because in that moment, the secret she had buried deep inside her heart finally rose to the surface. She did love him. She had for a long time. She was just too scared to say it. That letter changed everything. Clara kept it hidden, a secret treasure buried under her mattress. But inside, the weight of unspoken words grew heavier every day. She started seeing James everywhere, in the faces of fallen comrades, in the dawn's quiet light, in the soft whisper of the wind. Through the tents, her heart ached with a bittersweet longing. Was it love, regret, or something more complicated, a connection that only war could forge? Then one day, news arrived that the northern outpost was overrun. James was missing. The world seemed to tilt. Clara felt as if the ground beneath her cracked open, swallowing hope whole. But deep inside, a tiny spark flickered, a hope that somehow, somewhere, James was still alive, and that their story, unfinished and fragile, was waiting to be told. Days turned into restless nights as Clara wrestled with her thoughts. The camp buzzed with whispers about a rescue mission, a small team sent behind enemy lines to find survivors. James was on that list. Clara begged to join, but orders came down hard. Women were to stay safe, away from the front. But Clara wasn't about to let that stop her. She found a way. With the help of a trusted comrade, she disguised herself as a nurse assigned to the unit. Every step was perilous. Every shadow could hide an enemy. But Clara moved forward, fueled by determination and a desperate hope. The journey was long, the terrain unforgiving. At night, she traced the letter's words in her mind, as if they could guide her path. And then, one chilling evening, under a blanket of stars, she heard a faint cry, a voice she knew. It was James. Clara's heart pounded as she crept closer to the sound. She found James trapped beneath rubble from a recent bombardment, his leg pinned and face pale with exhaustion. Ignoring the danger, she worked quickly to free him, whispering words of comfort. Together, they navigated back through the maze of ruins, every step a battle against time and enemy patrols. James's strength waned, but Clara's resolve never faltered. As dawn broke, they finally reached friendly lines, greeted by relieved comrades. But the story wasn't over. James carried a secret, one that could change everything. As James recovered, Clara noticed his distant gaze, like he was carrying a weight far heavier than war wounds. One evening, by the flickering light of a candle, he confided in her. He had discovered documents revealing a betrayal within their own ranks, a spy working for the enemy. James had been trying to protect Clara by hiding the truth. Now they both faced a new kind of battle, not just for survival, but for justice. Together, they planned to expose the traitor before more lives were lost. As the days turned into weeks, her strength began to wane, but her spirit never did. The soldier, ever by her side, remained a constant source of comfort. He would tell stories of his hometown, painting vivid pictures of sunlit fields and starry nights, trying to keep her mind away from the pain. Despite his kindness, she felt nothing more than gratitude. The bond they shared was one of survival, not love. Yet the soldier's affection for her grew stronger with each passing day. He admired her resilience, the way she faced each hardship with quiet determination. One cold evening, as the wind howled outside the makeshift hospital tent, he wrapped a threadbare blanket tighter around her shoulders. "You'll get through this," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I promise." Her eyes met his, and though she didn't feel the same, she saw the hope in his gaze. For him, she was a beacon of light in the darkness of war. For her, he was a protector, a friend, and nothing more. But fate, cruel and unpredictable, had other plans. As the days passed, the war front remained unforgiving, but the soldier's admiration never wavered. Every glance he stole at her in the chaos was filled with a silent promise, a hope that somehow, amidst the rubble and despair, there might be a future. Yet, she remained distant, focused on survival, her heart a fortress sealed tight. He would find small ways to care for her, unnoticed by others. A shared bottle of water, a quiet word of encouragement, or covering her with his coat when the cold nights seeped in. Despite his efforts, she felt nothing beyond gratitude, a polite distance that kept their worlds apart. Still, the soldier's feelings only grew stronger, painting her as the light in his dark days. He wrote letters in his mind, confessions he dared not speak aloud, dreaming of a day when she might see him as more than just a fellow soldier. But for her, the war had already taken too much. Love felt like a luxury she couldn't afford, a distraction she couldn't let in. Survival was her only focus, and emotions, no matter how deep, were tucked away, waiting for a time that might never come. And so, the silent story of unrequited affection played out against the backdrop of war. Two souls intertwined by circumstance, yet divided by the invisible walls of the heart. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of crimson and gold, the soldier found her sitting alone near the campfire. The air was thick with smoke and quiet whispers of the past. He hesitated, but then gathered the courage to sit beside her. She looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes, but said nothing. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by the crackling fire. Finally, he spoke softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't expect anything from you. I just want you to know that I see you. Not just the soldier, not just the survivor, but the person behind it all." She felt a lump rise in her throat. No one had ever looked at her that way, not with such honesty, such vulnerability. Yet she couldn't return the feeling. Not yet. "I'm grateful," she replied quietly. "But my heart, it's not ready for anything more." He nodded, understanding more than she said. In that moment, they shared a fragile connection, a silent promise that no matter what the future held, she would never be truly alone. Days turned into weeks, and the harshness of war continued to weigh heavily on them both. Yet, amidst the chaos, moments like these, the stolen glances, the quiet conversations by the fire, became their sanctuary. The soldier, ever patient, never pushed her feelings. Instead, he simply stayed by her side, a steady presence in an unpredictable world. One night, under a blanket of stars, she found herself opening up, sharing stories from her childhood, the dreams she once held close but had buried deep. He listened intently, his eyes reflecting the flickering firelight and something deeper. Hope. For the first time, she realized that even if her heart was guarded, this friendship was healing wounds she didn't know she had. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. As the war raged on around them, the soldier's feelings only grew stronger, even if she couldn't return them. His quiet acts of kindness were a light in the darkness of those days. But for her, it was a reminder of a love she just couldn't feel. She often found herself lost in thought, wondering what could have been if her heart were different. Yet, despite the distance between their feelings, the bond they shared was undeniable. A bittersweet connection forged in the fires of war that neither time nor circumstance could easily break.